My incident took place in Athens, Alabama, in a quiet rural home on an otherwise normal street. I lived there with my ex, her mother, her sister, and her stepfather, as well as our collection of dogs. This house, though old, did not have any history of death or violence. Several times, earlier in the relationship, my ex mentioned offhandedly that she would occasionally hear children playing outside of the house. Small children. Now, this in and of itself would not be odd, were it not for the fact that there were maybe 6 families, including ours, within any respectable distance of the house, and the youngest children in the area were approximately 12 years old. They lived across the street, and though I did not know them personally, I knew them well enough that they did not sound like little children. We did not pay much heed, as these instances with the children were rare, and by the time you heard them, you had almost forgotten they were even an issue. Such was the hustle and bustle of life. The bed my ex and young son shared was pretty much a box springs and a mattress on top, set right on the floor, and was pushed into the corner of the room. There was open floor space near the foot of the bed, about 3 feet, and a television sitting on its stand against the far wall. My typical routine was to stand watch over a kid. She was loose, waiting for him to wake, and be there to tend to him so she could sleep. I would play Xbox while sit at the foot of the bed. About 2 a.m., I would turn off the game, make sure Sonny was okay, and curl up near the head of the bed. This particular night, though, I woke up to something tugging on me. Not so hard as to wake me, but hard enough to drag me, maybe a foot and a half at a time, toward the foot of the bed. First tug, I thought I was dreaming. I have been rather good at realizing that a nightmare is just a nightmare, scary as it may be. Second tug, I managed to assess what was going on. This thing, and yes, I say thing because it was taller and broader than any man should be. I realized that it had its arms wrapped around my lower legs just below the knee. In that flash it made sense that with all the junk to the immediate left of bed, that it would stand at the foot for stability, and that part of my legs was easiest to reach. It wasn't so much pulling with its arms as using its back to lean back. It got a third pull in before I fully realized that this was happening. I began to kick violently, which I don't think this thing was expecting. I got one leg free. The third tug had my legs nearly up under its, considerably high up, armpits. As soon as I felt one leg get free, the other ceased to be seized. The whole entity vanished. Normally, I would dismiss the whole thing as a dream, except that as soon as this thing vanished, I fell. My upper body was still on the bed, though only barely, so I was on maybe 2 feet of bed at this point, and my lower half fell as if from up high. My feet hit the floor, and I had to backpedal my full self back onto the bed. I was able to make out this thing's silhouette in the almost completely dark room. It must have been 8 feet tall and nearly 5 feet wide. It looked powerfully built, but it didn't seem to use all of that power. Based solely on its build, it could have easily held me still, right where it wanted me. I shouldn't have been able to get away as easily as I did. It didn't speak or make any sound like it spent any kind of effort to drag me, but I could tell, even in what little light was in the room, that it was physically pulling me. After I kicked my way frantically to the head of the bed, I surveyed the room as my eyes adjusted to whatever ambient light was around. Once I was satisfied that whatever was gone, I began to rationalize what had just happened, that I clearly had fallen asleep at the foot of the bed while playing Xbox. I ruled that out, because the TV was off and tired or not. I would have remembered laying back at the foot of the bed. I recounted that I had distinctly curled up at the top, part of the bed. Then I really began to get scared. I had really been dragged. That was irrefutable due to my moment of falling after the thing vanished. It had been supporting me, and when it vanished, I lost that support and fell. My next thought entertained the possibility that something was in my room that night. What did it want? Why was it dragging me so? To be quite honest, by the way it was dragging me, and had one leg on either side of its broad torso, it was trying to do some horrid sex act. This didn't make much sense, as I was fully clothed, lack of blankets, and her family's proximity had ensured that. Can't have someone coming in to check on the baby and getting a full Monty for their trouble. But it was the only thing I could think of. I am fully aware of sleep paralysis as well. I had never had it before, and have not had an episode since. I have seen documentaries on the subject, and suffers of episodes on more than one occasion, And though there are sensations of movement involved in these happenings, the victims usually awaken, unharmed though scared, in their beds. The way I understood it, in a sleep paralytic episode, you may feel like aliens are dragging you by your ankle down the hall, telling you that you're going to outer space with them. You're freaking out, and wake up as they reach your stairs. The aliens vanish, but you're in bed right where you fell asleep when you wake up. If I had sleep paralysis, I definitely did not wake up where I fell asleep. Another thing, to go from the top of the bed to the bottom isn't easy. Even squirming or sleepwalking in your sleep. It can be done. You can kind of drag yourself with your legs, but it's not easy. It takes focus and leg strain that I didn't have upon waking. I have been backward and forward with this. Looked online for anyone with similar experiences, and I can't find anything. First off, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Christian, and I am 15 years old. Being a young teenager, I know little to nothing about the paranormal other than what I research online. Also, I understand if my story seems incredible, but I would like you to hear me out. I am truly freaked out by this and would like your opinion. Before I start my story, I would also like to say I have never had a paranormal experience prior to this. I do take precautions to keep my home demon or ghost free though. When we moved in 2 years back, I salted every window seal and door. Okay, so my story starts on April 5th. It is sometime after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I received this chain letter text. Now, normally I don't even bother reading these ridiculous things because they are a waste of my time, but today was different. It read, "This is Jenna. Jenna was blind and kids at her school liked to play pranks on her. One late afternoon, a boy was planning to take her to the railroad tracks and nudge her a little as the train came by to scare her. Well, as the train approached, he pushed her. She tripped and fell onto the tracks, and the train ran her over, cutting off half of her body. If you don't resend this, you will be awakened by the sound of her dragging her body towards your bed to kill you. She will have her revenge." I'm not sure why, but this got to me. I believe it's because I live close to train tracks, and they tend to freak me out a little, but it did. Now, for the first couple hours, I paid it no never mind, but as nightfall hit and it was time for bed, the image creeped into my head again. Though I was freaked out a bit, I still went to sleep. For a while I was fine, but all of a sudden I awoke. This is actually a normal occurrence for me, because I have to be awake to turn over. So I did. I turned on my back, which is a little weird for me, and laid my head with my left ear pressed against the pillow, with my left ear against my pillow and a cotton ball in my right ear. I had an ear infection. I could hear nothing other than my breath, or so I thought. Now this is where it gets kind of weird / stupid sounding. My body starts to go numb. I try to move my arm to turn on my lamp, but it simply won't move. Then I hear it. It sounds as if it is right in my left ear, but I know this is impossible due to it being against my pillow. This sound, it was like something being dragged across gravel. It would start and stop, and every time my body would shiver. After a couple of seconds, I was able to break free and turn my lamp on. I looked at my phone, and it was 3:14 in the morning. Having a Wiccan stepmother, I know this is witching hour. Maybe this thing, whatever it may be, decided to take advantage of my fear. I know this sounds like a dream, but I can assure you it was not. I was fully awake. But maybe it was just my imagination. Like I said, I am a simple teenager. That is why I'm here. I would like your opinion on what it might be. But please, no hate mail. Any questions, please feel free to ask. And I'm sorry if my grammar is a little off. I've never been good with punctuation, and I have no way of checking if it is correct or not. First off, I have lived in this house since I was around 2. I am now 19, and nothing weird had ever happened to me until last year. It only went on for 3 days for some reason, then stopped altogether. The first night it started was in December. It had been snowing for the first time in 4 or 5 years. I heard running back and forth outside my window, the loudness of the crunching snow, let me know how close the running was to my window. It gave me the chills. Then the running outside turned to slow footsteps inside my room. The footsteps came from the direction of the same window and walked over to my bed. It was silent for a little while. Then the footsteps went around my bed to the side I was laying on. My heart went extremely weak, and I heard a man's voice. It sounded familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I'm shivering as I all of this back into my memory. But the man's voice whispered, "Open your eyes. I won't hurt you." I didn't respond. A few minutes later it spoke again. "Trust me," it said. I still didn't respond. Then it went completely silent. The next morning I woke up to find everything perfectly normal. I got up and called my friend asking if she wanted to spend the night. She said yes. That night, she said she felt weird and was kind of scared when she said that the bed quivered and both freaked out. We ended up camping in the living room. Even though things went better, that we saw a white kitten scamper from the kitchen through the living room and down the hallway. It was just the outline of a white kitten, and it went super fast. It mewed and whimpered. Then as it reached the hallway, it made a hissing noise. After a few minutes, we got up and called for the kitty. No luck. The next day, we went into my room to grab her things and get changed. The Mardi Gras beads on my standing lamp were slightly swinging. The same thing with the string on the fishing pole of the statue I had in my room. We got scared and ran out. That night, I saw a black circle in the reflection of my TV. I looked over to the area that was being reflected, but didn't see any black circle. I tried to forget it and went to bed. The next day, things were normal and have been ever since. When I was younger, around 12 years old, my cousins moved in with me due to some family issues. They were all younger than me, but there was about 6 of us, including my sister. We decided it would be fun to try the old Bloody Mary legend. I never believed in that stuff, nor did I know much about the paranormal world. I went into the bathroom by myself and turned the lights off. I said Bloody Mary 5 times and nothing happened. I went to turn the lights on and came face to face with a hooded figure. It was dark, but it looked like it was wearing a cloak and it had glowing red eyes. I jumped back and started screaming. My cousins came rushing in, but the figure disappeared. I told them what I had seen, but no one believed me. A few years later, around the age of 17, I started to experience weird things at night. I would be half asleep and be woken up by a noise. My bed began to shake, and I would often see a man standing at the foot of my bed. He was always wearing a trench coat and a hat. He never spoke, but stood there for a few seconds and would disappear. This would happen at least once a month. A few months after it started, I seen the hooded figure again. I was asleep one night and was awakened by something. I sat up a little bit and turned to my door. The hooded figure stood in my doorway. After looking at it for a minute, it vanished. It was the same figure I had seen in the bathroom. That was the last time I have seen it. However, my bed still shakes at night, and it has become so frequent that sometimes it happens more than once a night. Another weird thing that happened was when I was 18, I started dating this girl. After a few months dating her, I noticed she began to act weird. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me about how every night, lately she'd wake up and a hooded figure with red eyes would be standing in her doorway. I had never told her about me seeing the same thing. I eventually told her. We are broken up now, so I have no idea if she still sees it or not. I don't know if we were somehow connected, and that's why we both saw it, or if there is another explanation for it. I have yet to discover the reason behind my bed shaking at night. I was very young when I started seeing things. I was probably around 6 years old. I saw a man in my room. I only saw him once, but heard him several times. A couple of years later, I was sleeping with my mother and got up to go to the bathroom and heard people talking in a room nearby. I opened the door and there was nothing there. Years went by and nothing out of the ordinary happened. When I was around 17, me and a friend started playing around with a Ouija board. We only asked it crazy questions. But over time, I played it by myself. On this one night, I was playing a board in the dark, and the ghost of a little girl appeared. I asked it a question, but she did not respond. She walked back into the house. I followed her, but she disappeared. Since then, I have moved. That was about 20 years ago. I had nothing happen in all those years. About 4 years ago, it started back up. It was confined to my bedroom. I heard walking and rummaging around every night about 15 minutes after I lay down. I would find things out of place when I would wake up. Over time, it seems to do more and more almost to see what it can get away with. It unlocks doors and turns light off, moves things around. It's very shy. It never does anything when I have company. I have only communicated with it twice. I have gotten so used to it, I'm not really scared of anything. It seems to be happy just doing its thing. I have heard giggling like children. I assume it's a child. I always know when it's there. It's a coldness you could never understand. Last year it really got to me. It never seemed to leave me alone. It doesn't seem to like my family. My mom and dad came to visit. As soon as they walked in the front door, 2 light bulbs shot. It messed up the covers in my spare room. I have had it thump guitar picks and turn my amp off when it doesn't like the music I'm playing. I could go on and on about a lot of little things. So much has happened I can't remember it all. You just get used to it. But it's never once touched me. I told it I was fine with it here if it just kept its space. I assume it's the girl from the board. She seems happy just being around me. Looks like I'm stuck with her.